we're already having a conversation. The conversation had already begun. This is state of play, and sometimes we can't wait for the director to count us down, so we just go. But yes, the two manifestos are out. The social contracts that they are hoping that we'll all sign on to on December 7th is out. Based on that document, they're asking you to vote for them. This is a moment where we can sit back and look at this manifesto contest. It is a silly season, and in there, it's a promising spree. That's how I call it. But
well, it's become who are I don't want to say outweight or who outdo the other maybe.
Yeah.
Or who would promise more. It's all about winning elections, the politicians say. But I ask myself, is this what the people of Ghana need?
And that's the most important question, really.
I mean, I hear all the things. I hear all the promises.
We want a lot of things.
Yes.
But considering limited resources, what do we really need? And then you prioritize that.
People need jobs, Evans.
Yeah.
Why? If you need jobs, okay, well, there's a talk about training 1 million coders. You know my problem in this country? We will train one, and all the political parties, the two main political, are talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You train 1 million coders to do what? So that they do what?
So they can code.
And do what?
Yeah. It has to be integrated. It has to be a holistic plan.
Yeah.
So what is the plan for those 1 million coders when you equip them with the skills to code?
Yeah.
There must be a whole technological ecosystem, right, that allows that skill to become useful.
Mm-hmm.
Are you creating a Silicon Valley, for example, where all the infrastructure is there, the investment is there, that will then become the avenue to employ those 1 million people that you're going to train? Yeah. So what will happen is we'll spend a lot of money to train these 1 million people. They'll come up with the skills, and there's nowhere to implement that skill or to make money from that.
One of the things
we become useful people.
One of the things we never learn and never do is the fact that we always think about the inputs and not the outcomes.
Yeah.
So our thinking most of the time that if I do this, then that's the end of it.
But what do you want out of it?
So what do you want out of this?
Yeah.
Do you want to make Ghana the IT hub of West Africa?
Mm-hmm. And how are you measuring?
And how are you measuring that? So how do you want to do that?
Yeah.
So if you want to make Ghana the IT hub, it's not just training people. How about the infrastructure?
Yeah.
How do you put that in place? Okay, look, I've heard a lot of things. I still maintain that John Mahama is the one who's been able to explain the 24-hour economy better.
Mm-hmm.
But I still ask the question. And over the period, I've heard a lot of people saying that, why am I... You see, if you say DVLE, passport office, they will run 24 hours. I ask, what efficiency analysis assessment have you done? Is it a problem of more working hours, or maybe we need efficiency within the system? So I am saying, don't just tell me you do this and that's the end of it.
And you see, so you're so right. So I was speaking to Adongo, who is a spokesperson for the government on finance. He's also the Manifesto spokesperson on finance. And I was asking him to do some questions. So tell me, for the private sector, which sectors of the economy are you applying? Because again, it says there's not going to be a wholesale implementation of it. So which sectors of the economy, and how are you getting them to see the value of this so that they can participate? So we'll give them incentives. So what are incentives? It's taxes, but tax incentives. So what tax incentive? Because it's not good enough to say, and by the way, the reason why for me this was critical, this actually was in your 2020 manifesto.
It was.
So by the time that you come to 2024, you should have fleshed out this quite very detailed for us to know the public sector. How are you applying this? Which sectors? And again, I was asking him, so in the public sector, which agencies are you going to implement this with?
You know, I'll tell you one thing. I was saying something on the Super Morning Show this morning, Evans. The fact that Ibrahim Mahama, who's brother of John Dramani Mahama, he owns Jata Cement, right, Evans?
Yeah.
How has the state assisted Ibrahim Mahama? Okay? We say we want to do what? We say we want to do asphaltic concrete. We want to have roads that are made of concrete, right? Mm-hmm. Have we ever thought 1 minute of assisting him or telling him that, you know what, since you own a cement factory, we believe that if you probably add bitumen and asphaltic concrete, you can do this. And so we're going to give you a contract. Or you ask indigenous Ghanaian businesses to bid for it. But because we have Ibrahim Amoah, who's an indigenous Ghanaian, fully owned, I don't know, but the last time I knew, he took over 300 million Ghana cedis loan from a bank to construct this. So I assume, he has a majority stake in it. If he has a majority stake in this, what we need to do is to think of how we can assist this man to grow. Today, Dangote, he can afford to come to Ghana and come and set up Dangote Cement. Go to Nigeria and see. Haven't we seen telcos being sanctioned left and right in Nigeria?
Yeah, MTN.
Go to Nigeria. Haven't we seen Nigeria closing borders and denying other ECOWAS member states access to their market? We think that is okay. When they talk, we are not able to talk. But in Ghana, we don't know anything like protectionism. What we know is to have the CEO of GIPCs all over the world. He says, I'm looking for FDIs into Ghana. Ask him, how many of these entities come into Ghana and stay here and create how many jobs?
Yeah.
The point, I'm happy, all the two political parties, the MPP talked about the Buy Ghana First, the NDC has talked about it. But you see, it is not, I don't feel that policy that says we are going to create indigenous millionaires and billionaires who will be in charge of the next development of this country. We're just not going to give you contracts, but when you're given contracts, for instance, or when you are assisted, okay, why? There's absolutely nothing. Why? The British Prime Minister, which car does he drive?
Driving a car that is produced in the UK.
The German Chancellor, what car does he drive?
He drives a car produced in Germany.
So the French President, what car does he drive?
Same.
So what's our problem?
By the way, we make that point, and yet we have Kantanka.
Yes.
Once upon a time, when this government came to power in 2017,
Yeah.
there was a whole lot made about the fact that they were going to encourage that. The finance minister bought one, and we thought he was going to now lead that crusade to get government to make that a priority for people. And you see, then people said, oh, it's not safe. But that is how you support your local businesses to grow, reform, improve, and optimize.
Exactly.
Because when you use that vehicle, you will give them feedback. That is how you then, over time, we use Hyundai. I was watching a documentary about its history. And when it started, nobody wanted it. But in the US, they didn't want it in the US because of safety concerns. Mm-hmm. But over time, right now, it's one of the leading vehicles in the US by sales.
See,
because the country of origin decided that we will use it regardless of the challenges that it has, giving them an opportunity to learn and improve and export Chinese vehicles. There's a vehicle called BYD.
I've seen that.
BYD now is taking over the world. Mm-hmm. But when they started, nobody wanted to touch it. Like the Chinese government decided we will invest in it. Now they're taking over the world in terms of the electronic vehicles.
You see, and this is what you do.
Deliberate.
Do you think that Kantanka will manufacture an inferior vehicle for the president?
Of course not.
In fact, if the president says, this is the vehicle I want, Kantanka, if he's a serious businessman, he wouldn't mind going all over the world looking for the best automobile engineer to come and do that for him. Sometimes, okay, you need to hire people and pay them to design the best of vehicles for you. That is how we develop a country.
Another thing about the manifestos, it is this craze about quantity instead of quality. Just look at the numbers. The NDC has put out 680 promises. MPP, 380 promises. And understand that. For the MPP, because they're in government, you know the mess that has been created, you're hesitating to promise a bit more. So that's why they are half what NDC is proposing. But it tells you a lot. In this country, do you realistically believe, and you're watching us, that any government in 4 years, because they have a 4-year mandate, nobody's guaranteed 8 years, 4 years, you can implement 680 promises in 4 years. For the MPP2, can you implement 380 promises in 4 years?
Look,
it's not possible.
I hear the talk about we're going to build an airport in Cape Coast. I would explain. I'll come back to you on that. How? You're going to build. You said this in 2020. You couldn't do it, and I say this all the time. You want to build an airport in Cape Coast. Today, you want to dualize the road to Winneba. Okay, you are constructing a dual carriage to Winneba. What that should let you know is that from Winneba, you go to Apam, you go to Mankesim, you get to Cape Coast itself. You can actually dualize that road. Then you can continue to Takrady. Well, as we move.
I mean, I don't understand that promise. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
And the only reason why it will happen because Central region is a swing region. And so
no, but we have seen, look, we constructed as a people, we constructed the whole airport.
Nothing is happening.
You know, I went to school in
It's
Ho.
not commercially viable.
You know, I went to school in Ho, so I've lived in Ho before. 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, we used to go for excursions at the Ho airport site. There was a site that was designated as Ho airport site. Today, the airline that decided to go to Ho, they've had to stop.
Because how many passengers?
At least every year I go to Ho 3 or 4 times. Maybe. Sometimes every year. At least every year I've been to Ho. Every year I've been to Ho. It is so easy to drive from Accra.
And that drive is so sweet.
Yeah, well, the road is not in the best of shape sometimes, but if you're with somebody and you're having a conversation.
Yeah,
for instance, from the 25th to the 27th of October, Mauli School is having its annual congress. We'll launch the 75th anniversary, which is next year. I will be there. Am I flying to Ho? Am I not driving to Ho? I don't, and this whole thing about paying queen mothers, paying chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, that's the thing. I mean, there are a lot of silly promises in the manifestos, absolutely silly promises in the manifestos. One of them is what you just mentioned. The MPP claiming that they want to pay chiefs. Paramount chiefs are already paid. But they want to expand that and pay everybody.
I don't
pay queen mothers and others. But look, why? What problem are you solving with paying chiefs at that level? What is the issue? What is the issue? Does paying the chief, what problem does it solve? What real need in the look for communities where the chiefs are? A lot of them don't have water. It will cost you far less to put money together to build a mechanized borehole, and we have NGOs, individuals doing that. Instead of paying the chiefs, take that money and spend it on providing water for the people in the constituencies in these areas that you're going to be paying the chiefs, right? It doesn't make sense. But because there are votes to be won, it's found itself in a manifesto. And it is, for me, an unfortunate promise. But they're defending it. So I asked the question the last time when I had miracles, so why is this important? And he says, well, we need to do it because we want to bring the chiefs into the governance architecture. Who says the chiefs are not in the governance architecture in the first place?
Look,
who says a chief requires to be paid before they do their job? The paramount chiefs are already paid. But you don't need to pay the other chiefs below that, which is what they would want to do across the board, to achieve anything. But it has to be done. And it's going to add on to our huge bloated government,
Look, this is what I think.
But it's not solving any real problem.
This is what I think. This is what I think about this issue. Now, chiefs, and my respect for the chieftaincy institution is known by all. Chiefs play a major role, and I think that our constitution has done a great disservice to our chieftaincy institution. I do not know whether the chiefs would support this.
Oh, but who's going to turn down money?
But I think that the chiefs would prefer jobs, would prefer development of their people.
Their people, yes.
Instead of they taking money. So I'm sure the chiefs will be better. They'll tell you that let's get people, help solve the problems in my community. Because when businesses thrive, so we can actually look at it from this point of view. Any business that goes into any community and government, through the help of the district assembly, should be helping every district to engage in all of these things. You can then have some kind of a scheme, where chiefs would be assisted with development. development of their areas. That for me is the most important thing. That for me is the most important thing. Today, people are not chiefs full time. But you see, the other problem is this. Because in resource-rich areas, Evans, there's a royalty for the chiefs of the traditional council.
Yeah. That they take on behalf of the people.
Of all the people. But also the law says they have to use that in the maintenance of their status as traditional rulers. You can understand where this is coming from. But I say, chiefs today would prefer development of their areas than they being paid. The chiefs would choose jobs for their citizens, the young men and women in their communities, and they're getting money. So, look, Nananum, I'm very close to Nananum because it's an institution I respect. I mean, they play a very important role in our communities. And, but for the chiefs that we have in our communities, I'm sure a lot of these politicians would have destroyed this country.
Yeah.
Yes, you're making a point.
Yeah, I mean, and to expand it, I just pulled it up again just to see how they couched it. You want to pay living allowance. Okay? So they're not just paying, they've defined it. A living allowance must be living allowance.
Yeah.
Must definitely be above the inflationary threshold for it to be a living allowance. So you're paying something quite...
We're currently paying paramount chiefs. Let it be.
But here, what they put in the manifesto, paying living allowance to paramount chiefs, divisional chiefs, and queen mothers. I mean, the point you're making is, this is absolutely needless.
You don't need to...
It is misplaced priorities. And we know the communities where these chiefs operate, that people live in squalor. People live in squalor. And you want to take that money to pay the chief, pay him a living allowance. What about all the people that the chief is superintending in that particular area, right? So that's for the MPP for me. If you go to the NDC, one of the things that I found very weird in the promises that the NDC put out was this promise, and this promise was first made in 2020, and it was actually very effective because, the NDC won in a lot of the small scale mining areas, well, the Galamsey areas. When Jomama went campaigning and told the miners that if he's elected, he is going to grant amnesty to all convicted illegal miners. It caused an uproar. But that promise was repeated this year. And I had in the studio with me Bar Mukhtari, who's spokesperson for John Mahama, and I asked the question. He says, yes, that promise is something that they maintain. Since this whole manifesto thing started, coming up and they finalized it, I went looking in the manifesto to check, did they include it in it this time? And I find that it is not there in those exact words. So listen to this. The next NDC government will wage a ruthless war against illegal mining. So they are waging a ruthless war against illegal mining menace. And roll out an aggressive program to reclaim our polluted water bodies, degraded lands, and devastated forest reserves. They want to place a ban on new mining activities, forest reserves. They want to amend the mineral law to impose stiffer punishment on mining in water bodies. Decentralize. Implement Tree for Life. Resource Geological Survey. Set up a novel Ghana Gold Board. And ensure that the Bank of Ghana's gold purchasing program will be backed by metal leveraging program. So nowhere did they actually state that they're going to give them amnesty. But when this question was asked last month before the manifesto went out, the spokesperson maintained that that's what's going to happen. In fact, Jomama on the campaign trail was asked that question again this year. He repeated it and actually justified and explained why that will happen. It's not in the document, but he keeps saying it. So it actually betrays a certain inconsistency for me. The hard print does not have that, but on the campaign trail, it is being repeated. But Winston, think about it. Which is more effective? What you see in print or what they say in the communities when they go to campaign?
What they say in the communities.
That's it. That is what the people will hold on to. For us, we are sitting here talking nice about this document. You know how many people will be opening this document to read?
This is a full document.
This is a full document. You know? And so it begs the question about that inconsistency. But for a politician, it makes sense, right? That was a line you put out in 2020 that was very effective in illegal mining communities. So why do you change that strategy? Mm-hmm. But that's the conversation we're having. That we need to also be truthful to our people and play the politics of sincerity. And this one, just like the MPP saying they're going to pay cheese, when we know that there's a promise to try and win favor with the traditional authorities, and hopefully that trickles down to vote for you, because if they're traditional authorities, that's why they go, anytime they go to a village, they want to visit the chief first, because when the chief speaks, it has an influence on the followers who believe that when the chiefs are speaking, some of them at least, then it is the best course of action to vote for this individual who they seem to be endorsing. So if you go there and you promise them that you will pay them, of course, then you're expecting that when they sit in open and adjudicate over issues, they may say stuff that may promote your cause in an election, right? That's what they are paying them. The same thing Mahama is doing in the communities when he goes to campaign around this illegal money issue. Oh yeah, I'll give you amnesty. Meanwhile, it's not in the print, in the final document that they put out.
But you see, I mean, I like the NDC's plan to to scrap the capping of to uncap the health insurance levy. I like that. I like that. I've been advocating that that's something we should do. So I'm happy that they say they will do that. But I don't buy this free stuff. I am also for the provision of sanitary pads to young girls in schools. I do not think that anybody must skip school because she cannot afford a sanitary pad.
Yeah.
But I do not think that your daughter or my daughter, Evans, when they are in school, should also be provided with free sanitary pads.
I agree.
It may not matter, but it doesn't make sense.
I agree.
So those who cannot afford, again, must be assisted. See, the state must be there for those who cannot afford. And the whole idea, Evans, and that's why I'm against the scrapping of the betting tax. Because the whole idea of taxation, right, is that if I earn more than you do, I must pay more than you do. So then, and for those who earn little, they don't pay anything. In fact, sometimes the state may have to go to their aid. So they will use the funds that I have given back to the state from what I have earned, because I have earned more, to actually take care of that person. I don't understand this free wholesale, so then free academic facility user fee. I have maintained that. And I said the same thing about free SHS. That's my position when it comes to free stuff. Means test. See those who need it. Give it to them. Give it to them. Don't just say that because, we want people to go to school. No. Not everybody who cannot go to school missed school because of money. Not everybody did that. And so it's important we means test and then go ahead and give them. After all, what? It is better than spending money on things that you cannot account for. I've always maintained that it's better to spend your money on things that you can easily say, well, this is what I did, this is what I have done, instead of spending money on things like one village, one dam, that today, in the midst of a dry spell, we can't see anything.
So, by the way, the responsibility is really on you, and that's why we're having this conversation. When you hear the parties, now that their manifestos are out, be a bit more critical, okay? Be a bit more critical in assessing the money. Both parties, by the way, assessing manifestos with a very critical eye. And whilst we talk about that, we are wearing Defend Media Freedom. I'm sure you see that we are all wearing the same T-shirt with the same inscription. He's wearing red, I'm wearing white, because we're going to be doing our jobs later this year to cover the elections. And in the past, our colleagues have been assaulted. And so join the campaign. There's a big event happening shortly at 4 at the Nat Hall. But use the hashtag Defend Media Freedom GH if you believe that media is important. And if you think it isn't, stop for a second and imagine December 7, nationwide media blackout of the elections. And then once you imagine that, ask yourself again if you were right to believe that media isn't important and it's okay to be journalist. Enjoy the rest of your evening.